I have another term that I'd love you to break down for me that's apparently very hot in gaming right now. What's a dynamic world and is it achievable?
Oof, okay, that's a big one.
Another 5 minute easy
Yeah,
question for
exactly.
you.
Yeah, like this. We could have done this all day. This is great.
I'm making this
Um,
so easy.
so, dynamic world is kind of like the Turing test, but for the real world. To think of it in that sort of way. So the Turing test, for anyone who may be aware, was a thought experiment that was basically, could you communicate with a computer and have it communicate back in a way where you could not tell it apart from a human? Now, to be fair, computers beat the Turing test well before like the recent, I mean, AI has been around for a very long time, but the recent proliferation of AI and like LLMs and stuff like that. So this is nothing new. A dynamic world is taking that one step further. So this is where, you're in, say, a VR headset, and I'm sure part of your brain would know you're sitting on a couch with a VR headset on. That part is fine. But being able to look around and see a world which is being, you're not supposed to use the name of it in what you're saying, so I can't say being generated dynamically, but seeing a living, breathing world which is not being driven by an overarching rule set. It is being driven, I guess, bottom up, where each entity in that world, I would like to think, and now we're getting into fate, karma, and all sorts of crazy discussion topics here.
I
But
love
like,
it.
I personally don't think there is an overarching plan driving my activities. I think that
You're not
I
in the
have
Matrix, Marty. No? Maybe. To be
maybe,
seen.
but imagine a game world where a character in that isn't being told like, okay, you walk between these 2 points on the map, and if something happens, this is how you respond to it. You're more giving them, hey, you're in this world. And then they are able to determine, okay, cool, what do I need? Well, I need food. How do I get food? I need a job. How do I get a job? I go to the job market. And that's more the progression that this character has within the game. And then if you're able to scale that out from there, you're creating this very real, and real in the way that it has flaws, it has imperfections. Like the real world is not perfect. And, for better or for worse, a lot of gaming worlds, because they are very structured and very programmed, feel wrong. They don't pass the sniff test. Like they feel very orchestrated. And the real world doesn't do that. Everything changes. Everything's very dynamic. Everything's very fresh. Everything's, I could walk outside right now, get hit by a bus. Like we're not able to predict what is going to happen. I don't know what question you're going to ask next. I can try to guess, but I'm probably going to get it wrong. And that's wonderful in so many ways. Dynamic worlds, dynamic content, it's a whole potential new, I won't say genre, because it's not necessarily a genre into itself, but it is a genre breaking development if we're able to get to that point. Because you think of Mario, to go back to that like very simple example where speedrunners have solved that first level of Mario. But if every Goomba in that game is acting the way they choose to act on any given day, now we're getting something interesting. Now it's not predictable. It's not going to always play out. Maybe it does play out the same, but not in the exact same way. It opens up a very interesting world.
And it's so fascinating when you think of dynamic world. And thank you for the explanation. I had no clue what it was. But like maybe some people are like, games are my happy safe space where I feel like I know where it's going, and that's a good thing. My real life is too chaotic. It'd be interesting to see who takes it up, or am I missing something? Do you think everyone would prefer the dynamic world?
Um, I'll be honest, I can't answer that because we've never gotten to a point where we've
True.
built one good enough where
True.
players can actually have that choice in the first place.
Yeah.
In the same way that there are different people looking for different experiences in a game, I would say that there's probably going to be some players who love this idea and some who are repulsed by it. But that's fine. There is enough different studios building enough different amazing games out there that hopefully you'll never be in a world where it becomes like an A/B choice. You can always choose to play the kind of experiences that you are looking for. We're just trying to add a whole new flavor of gaming into that ecosystem.
I'm having so much fun with this. But I'll get a move on. This is the last question from this section. How do you feel about AI playing Pokemon now, and apparently Mario? Is it a good barometer for model quality or no?
Yes and no. So, I should probably expand on that a little bit. Otherwise, this is a really bad way to end this section
Do tell.
for anyone listening and watching. Okay, so a game like, say, Mario, or even Pokemon in a lot of ways, they are deterministic experiences. As I said, Mario is a great game where if you can memorize certain inputs, you will beat every level in a perfect time. And we're getting very close to humans being able to reproduce what we call task runs or tool-assisted speedruns. So humans being able to match what a computer can theoretically is the perfect way to play the game. Cool. Pokemon, a little bit different because obviously there's an element of RNG, randomness that can happen in the game. So a model has to now actually adapt for that on the fly. It's not just like rote learning. It now has to actually adapt to different situations. So in terms of where I see AI going, Pokemon is by far the better example of that. It's kind of like when you're studying. If you just memorize the answers to an exam, cool, that's one way of passing the exam. That's the Mario example. But it's the second someone asks you something which is not that exact question, you fall over. The Pokemon example is more you actually having a deeper understanding of the content in the exam. So when you get thrown a curveball, you can hopefully deal with it. Or more importantly, and this is where AI is so wonderful, by failing, you can then learn from that mistake. And that's like, I don't like thinking of models as like you train it and it's done. True AI, especially in the gaming space, needs to be constantly being trained and retrained because you want the AI to be learning from the experiences that it has. With the games that we're building, we see that training AI as a core part of the player experience, where they choose to go and train their heroes and go, hey, here's a new strategy I worked out. Go learn how to do that better. Because by doing that, now you're developing this game where, if I play it today and I play it in a month's time, the experience in a month is completely different to what I get today. Because the AIs have learned, evolved, and grown and developed new strategies, new tactics in the same way that humans would do that as well. Again, the way that we play Mario today is not the same as we played it 20 years ago. We've learned new tactics and new strategies along the way. If you can get to a world where AI is helping you shift and evolve your metagame, so what's actually happening, the tactics, the strategies, how people approach it, that becomes such an interesting, fun way to experience games in a whole new way. And it's something you can apply not even just to new games being built, but you can go back and use them on things like Pokemon, like Mario and stuff like that, and see how AI can approach these, existing puzzles, but in new, innovative ways.
Absolutely fascinating. My husband watches people play games on YouTube. I'm sure there's a better term for that. Do you think people will watch AI play games as well? You do.
It's a big part of what we're so we do design documents for everything we create. And for Gladiator Mayhem, our first game, one of the first things in that design doc is this has to be a game which is as fun to watch as it is to play. Because if it's not fun to watch it, then cool, you might train your AI, but you're not going to enjoy watching the result of that. So, we're putting time and effort into things that in a normal game we wouldn't have to worry about. Cinematic cameras, replay modes, AI-generated highlight reels with one tap sharing to TikTok and your favorite streaming platforms, or doing AI-powered narration or announcers, all things that you don't necessarily need in a traditional game. But for us, we want to make the experience of watching it, and again, hopefully we get people who choose to stream that experience and share that with their communities as well. Organic growth is a thing. But yeah, if we can make that just as fun as playing the game itself. The example I always fall back to, myself, a bunch of mates will come around on a Friday night, we'll throw FIFA up on the TV and we'll put, Barcelona, Man United, and we just turn it into a drinking game. Because that's a beautiful game. FC 25 it's called now. They changed the name for reasons. But yeah, sitting back, watching it, having it as a fun thing. It's like putting the footy on, but just in a nerdy digital format. And I would love to be in a world where, maybe someone, on the bus to school or on their, morning commute on the train doesn't necessarily feel like playing one of our games, but fire it up, send the AI off to do a couple of battles and just watch how it does. Or maybe watch other people's, battles playing out, or, maybe there's a tournament running, watch highlight reels that, again, we put together using AI, where the AI will study a match and pick out the most interesting moments, move the camera dynamically.
Okay, I am putting it into the universe that you're going to give me an invite when you do this with the AI playing the games, okay? Big party at yours. Let's do it.